Boys and girls, welcome back to the Commercial Real Estate Starting from Scratch podcast with me, your host, John Kleisch, on episode number 34. If this is your first time tuning in, really appreciate you doing so. To give you an idea of what this podcast is about, it is just me documenting my journey from zero experience and no commercial buildings owned all the way up until however far we take this thing. I've been doing this for about 8-9 months or so, and currently based out of Phoenix, Arizona, I have 2 commercial buildings that I am 50% owner. One is an industrial building that mostly houses automotive tenants, and then the other one is an office building in Sun City, Arizona, which is a suburb of Phoenix. Thanks again for tuning in. Really would like to hear how you heard about us, and feel free to send me a message there. This is all in chronological order, so if you go back, it's like the very first episode, and then it all just goes up from there, and it's raw, unfiltered, bringing it to you as straight as humanly possible. So, I feel that finally that eviction is behind us. If you listened to the last episode, definitely go back, listen to that one. To be honest, after all said and done, I'm not really upset because he did take mostly everything. There was some stuff that's still left behind that is going to get removed here, and I'm totally fine with that. Like, my big thing was that I just wanted this stuff off of my property. So it is now mostly gone. I haven't been there in a couple days, 2-3 days, so I do not know what is left behind. I have been slowly selling the stuff that has been left behind as far as not necessarily tools, but more so equipment and stuff that I look at and have no idea what it is. It doesn't look valuable. It looks all worn. And I've just been selling it on Facebook Marketplace for as cheap as possible to the lowest bidder, I guess you could say. Whoever's willing to come pick it up. I've been working really crazy deals with people. So that's mostly taken care of, which is great. I feel like I can finally take a deep breath and put all of that behind us. Now, for grand, I really thought we had a tenant signed, sealed, and delivered. We were literally at the very, 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 like, there was no more negotiating going on. We agreed on terms. We went over the lease. He redlined the lease. We looked at it. We went back and forth and agreed on everything. And then I get ghosted for a few days. I'm like trying to follow up. And then finally the other day, I'm like, hey, dude, I haven't heard from you in like 5 days. I don't know what's going on. I have another party that's interested. I'd rather go with you, but, let me know where you're at. And he says, just go with them. I was like, oh, okay. Thanks for getting back to me, but what changed? We went through all of this work. What changed? And he has zero response. So, in my opinion, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's a good sign. Because in my opinion, if you're willing to go through all of that work and then at the very last minute back out and not even tell me you're backing out, just ignore me, I don't think that's a very good high quality trait or a trait of a high quality human being. Don't think favorably of people that do that. Maybe it's a good thing, but unfortunate because I thought we were done. I had another gentleman that was also very, very, very interested, reached out to me constantly, and I was the one slowing down the process because I thought this guy was ready to go. And I told him the other day, I was like, hey, I forget what day, Monday, Tuesday? Yeah, probably Tuesday, Monday. I was like, hey, dude, let's talk about it. Here's the application. Here's the background check. And then I haven't heard anything since. I even followed up with him today. So hopefully by holding out on the other guy, I didn't lose my other tenant too. That would be really unfortunate. That is what my main concern was before about holding off, because that was a tenant that I perceived to be of very high value and somebody that I wanted in my spot. So I held out for him. And then in the meantime, I was always like in the back of my head, what if I hold out for this guy and then I lose that other guy and then this guy doesn't even sign, right? Like, that's the worst case scenario right there. And maybe that's happening right now, which would really, really suck. That would really, really suck if that was the case. I guess really suck? No. It'd be very unfortunate because I lost, we went from, in my head, cash flowing $5,500 a month. Well, the other guy was going to cash flow us $3,500 because he was renting less space, or the other guy was renting more space. The new guy was going to be renting less space, so that's why there was a difference in rent. We would be cash flowing $3,500, and it would have been, nothing fantastic, but I could have gotten one more outdoor tenant, and we would have been like $4,500 cash flow, which is just fantastic. So now I'm afraid that we lost both, and I'm back to the drawing board again. I did have another gentleman go out that was very, very hopeful. He was a very, very good potential tenant, but he did semi-truck diesel repair, which those things are like pretty tall, and our doors are only 14 feet, and those semis are about that. So we didn't be able to have him work out, so that was a shame too. So that's kind of the pickle that I am in right now. I don't want to be desperate and chase down this guy because people can smell desperation. When you're oozing desperation, you could feel it, and that's not a good position to be in neither. So I need to push this guy further along and really see where he is at, and hopefully he does want to move forward, because it would be great to get Grand almost checked off my list, because we had our last meeting with the prospective, I don't even know how to say this without saying, with the prospective partnership on Thunderbird, the office building, which is getting better and better. The more we look at this deal and partnership, the better and better it looks. At 50, I don't even know what I can and can't say. So let's just leave it that both my partner and I are very, very, very bullish on this play. The worst case scenario is something that we can stomach, and the best case scenario is just out of this world. And for them to produce better than we would with a single tenant, they would need to miss their mark by like 30-40%. So I like those odds. Now, the major factor is money. We need at least, I would say, to feel comfortable, 150 grand, which 60, 70 grand goes directly into the improvements, the furnishings, the technology, printers, stuff like that. And then the rest of it would be to give us a buffer, because this building is burning basically $10,000 a month, regardless if it's rented or not. So that burn, or that churn, or whatever you want to call it, would be eaten up really, really quickly. Now, the positive thing is they don't take too long to get going. They pre-lease spaces, so that will help out as well. But there's definitely going to be a bleed. And if I know anything from my experience in real estate in general, is that nothing ever works out the way that it is supposed to. Everything takes longer. Everything is more expensive. So there's that too. So that's why we are preparing for not the worst, but giving ourselves a really good buffer to not have to worry about the money, because we'll be burning money for almost a year. About at least 8 months is seemingly to be like the target of losing money. So not the best position to be in overall. However, if this does work out moderately well, this will be a great play, and it will be a fantastic cash flow play. And when that happens, you know that the value of that building goes way, way, way up. I don't even want to throw out crazy numbers because I have no idea, but the value of that building will be worth 2 to 4 times what I initially thought it could be worth if we do a deal with these guys. So that is always very, how do you say, tempting, intriguing, right? But my whole point of that segue was that if Grand was cash flowing $3,500 instead of breaking even or losing a little bit, that would be a lot easier to stomach another building that is losing money, because this is just how crazy my life is in general, and probably any entrepreneur, where a couple weeks ago, my partner John and I were talking about how it would be very nice to de-risk ourselves, get our money out of these deals, and bring on partners that get equity instead of debt. It's a safer play to do the equity play. However, when it works out and the upside is there, you have to share that upside with them, which really eats into your potential, right? So it's like, what do you want? That safety, or do you want to have that more risky debt hanging over your head that you have to pay out every month, but you get to keep the upside? And me and John were laughing about how we wanted to de-risk ourselves and take chips off the table and sleep good at night. And now here we are talking about doing this deal and bringing on another partner. And then John was like, and I was thinking this before he even said it, he's like, well, what if we just kept it in-house? And I was like, bro, we were just talking last week about how we wanted to get rid of these debt plays and get into more equity plays. And now here we are wanting to either A, put more of our money into this deal, which is a very real possibility, or B, raising more debt on the building, which would be a pretty risky play to begin with as well. Now, that's a decision that we're going to have to think about and make here fairly soon, because we want to get going on this partnership very soon, because the window for leasing is coming up towards Q3, Q4. Beginning, middle of Q3, end of Q4. Summertime is ending here in Phoenix. The kids are going back to school. The temperatures are starting to drop, and that's when leasing really starts to pick up. So we want to have our building available and ready for that, because we don't want to miss a whole season of leasing, because that could be 20-30%. A major victory in our meeting today, I said, hey, a major victory, if we started today, signed the paperwork today, what would be a major victory for this building, by the end of the year? And it was like, if we could get to half the building leased up by the end of the year, that would be like a major success. That would be like, we could put a feather in our cap, or whatever that phrase is. So, and at that point, we're breaking evens, right? So we're eating debt for 4 months only, and then we're breaking even. That's great. That's not bad at all, right? Am I thinking that's going to happen? No. However, my point is that we do want to get going on this. Unfortunately, I think that my partner and I are psychotic enough to move forward with this deal without the money lined up and then just kind of figure it out. If you're watching this, you can see me. I'm like squeezing my face as I say that, because I don't think it's the greatest idea. However, the deal feels so good to me that I kind of agree. And I feel like that we do have to just kind of figure it out, because everything always works out for us, one way, shape, or form. Whether that's a true statement or I'm just saying that to make myself feel good, I don't know. However, I do get nervous. Just thinking about it, of putting myself in a position. I'm in a very, like right now is, I would say, the riskiest, I put myself in a very situation where my risk levels are pretty high right now. Now, does that mean that I am in a bad spot? No. Does that mean that I regret doing this? No. This is just facts, right? I just got into these deals. They are still mostly unstabilized, Thunderbird being only 20% stabilized, and Grand being about 50% stabilized the way it sits right now. So maybe not even, maybe a little bit less. But that's where the risk comes in, is that I took on a lot of debt. I increased my debt by, let's see here, $2.1 million. And now I increased my monthly nut by $20,000, basically 10 grand of property. So 10 grand a month, right? So I added that to my plate. Now, however, that's not like the upside. Once these buildings get stabilized, I will not be in a very risky position. So for me to be in a risky position overall, and then to go out and get more debt or put more money into Thunderbird feels like I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I would definitely be exposing myself to more risk, regardless if we take on debt or use our own cash. So, because then, I mean, stroking a check for 75 G's right now, I don't even know if I would say yes to that. I'm thinking in my head now about what I would do, and I could. There are some other things that I'd have to sell, but I don't like to sell anything. I want to keep everything that I have. However, these investments, like Bitcoin, for example, I could sell some Bitcoin, and I won't lose sleep over that, because is Bitcoin going to triple in the next year? Probably not. Is it possible? Yeah. Will that 75 grand I put into Thunderbird triple in a year? I think so. It's a real possibility. So those are the decisions that are floating around in my head. And again, back to it, is if Grand gets a lease signed, that decision would be a lot easier to swallow, because we can just take that $3.5 grand, scoot it over to Thunderbird. And that means instead of burning, we're burning 10 grand, we're bringing in 2. So that's 8 grand that we're burning, 4,500. So then John and I would have to come up to the table with a few grand each a month for a handful of months. That's a lot more palatable than, having an $8,000, deficit, and then having Grand still break even and not bring anything in. I feel like that, got my brain's going like a million miles an hour now, just thinking about all my options. That's one of my favorite things about doing this podcast, guys, is that it allows me to put my thoughts out there, and then hearing me say these idiotic things sometimes, or just saying crazy things, or maybe not even crazy things, just saying things in general. It really gets my brain thinking in a different way, which I would never really do if I was just sitting there in my own thoughts. So benefit to having a podcast is that this is like a self-therapy session, maybe? I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Probably a good thing. But yeah, so those are the decisions that are weighing over my head this week. And I'll tell you what, I will gladly deal with stuff like this 10 out of 10 times versus the stress that I was dealing with last week. That this is a lot more palatable. It's a lot more easy to swallow. And the thing I like about these decisions are, I am the one controlling the ship, right? That is my decision. So if I make a bad decision and it goes sour, I don't have anyone else to look at, right? That's all on me. And that, I kind of like that, because when you have outside factors, there's so many things that could go blow up a deal, blow up anything in general. So I like being the one that decides kind of the victories and the losses and everything like that. Especially makes the losses a lot easier to handle, because you're the one that messed up, right? That's it. Signed, sealed, and delivered. That's the end of the day. So it goes good and bad. And then when you the problem is when you make a good decision and it works out really well, then you kind of get a little, oh yeah, I'm the man, right? And then you can also get into trouble doing that. I've been there before as well. So, golly, that's basically it for the week, guys. Hopefully, I've been saying this for a long time now. Oh, next week I'm going to have a lease. Walking into next podcast would be fantastic if we actually had a lease signed. That would just be a huge breath of fresh air and would really change the tune of everything. And I feel like that would be a good drive and a momentum shift to us to work with Thunderbird and get this deal going. And when you have momentum, man, it feels great when you're fighting uphill and running uphill and the world's against you, like it's been the last couple months. That's when it gets really brutal. So getting a little victory would be huge. It would relieve a lot of stress. It would relieve a lot of work of me leasing this property. And it would also help us get into this Thunderbird deal a lot easier, which is a really big deal hanging over our heads right now. So fingers crossed, hopefully something comes in the next week or so and I could celebrate, because it would be great to do a nice little celebration here. It's up and down, up and down. If you've been following this podcast, you know it's been the waves, the roller coaster rides have been crazy. But this is what real estate is, right? And especially when you're playing in the commercial real estate space, the numbers are just bigger, so the problems are more expensive. Everything is extra dollar signs to it. So, comes with both ends of the sword, the good and the bad. However, it's been fun. It's been great. I wouldn't change anything as of yet. So fingers crossed we get some good news for you guys next week. That's the update going across the board on both properties. Nothing too overly crazy or exciting, but hoping for some good news and we can do some celebrating next week. And maybe Grant gets leased and we sign that deal before the next podcast. Wouldn't that be something? Very real possibility. I'm putting that out there. So outside of that, boys and girls, really appreciate you guys tuning in. It has been a blast sharing this with you guys over the last 9 months. I'm hoping that you guys get interest in it or find interest in it. If you liked this episode or you like this podcast, guys, do me a huge favor. Please just take 2 seconds and leave me a review. I don't even think you need to type anything. If you just click 5 stars and GTFO, I'm cool with that too. But also, guys, please, if you have a friend or a colleague or associate or a family member or somebody that you know that would enjoy this podcast, do me a favor and please send it to them and then have them leave a review for me as well. I do zero marketing. I don't even tell my own friends about this podcast. So this is growing completely organically, and I'd really like to keep it that way. I think that's kind of cool, which is like counterintuitive, I guess, but my plan isn't to like blow this thing up and have like this mainstream podcast at all. So I really like that. This is growing organically. If you have not been tuning in, this is officially a worldwide podcast. And when I mean worldwide, I mean somebody has listened to this podcast on every single continent. So, I know, guys, it's a big deal. Thank you. I can hear the applause. I appreciate you. If you can't see me, I'm taking a bow. Worldwide podcast. You know, I don't know how many podcasts go worldwide as quickly as this one did. So maybe we're onto something. Maybe we're pioneering the commercial real estate internationally across the globe. Unbelievable. I was going to make that joke, but I completely forget what it was. I think it was Step Brothers. They were on a boat. Prestige Worldwide, Global Prestige Worldwide or something was the name of their LLC. Gosh dang it, I'll have to look that up. But either way, that's a wrap. We'll leave it on that awkward moment. Guys, follow me on Instagram, john.kleisch. Leave me a review. Share the podcast. You guys are the best. Sincerely love having you guys follow along on this journey. Send me a message. Let me know if there's something else that I can do. And on that note, we're out of here. Take her easy.